Hello everyone, this is Rosalia Bisaya, your grade 9 English teacher. Today, we are going to talk about making connections. And what is making connections? It is a critical reading comprehension strategy that helps you make meaning of what you are reading. It helps you to make sense of what you read, retain the information better, and engage more with text itself. There are kinds of connections. 1. Text-to-self connections. These are connections where you connect what you are reading to personal experiences or knowledge. This is when you realize something you read and a story has happened to you in your own life. Usually, this kind of connection comes with the emotion you felt at that time. It make you feel happy, afraid, or sad. Example: this story reminds me of such a Christmas vacation that I traveled to Hong Kong with my family, just like the main character. Text-to-text connection. These connections are made when you can connect what you are reading to other books that you have listened to before. They may make connections that show how the books share the same author, have similar characters, events, or settings, are the same genre, more are the same topic. Example: I read another book about spiders that explained that spiders have venom. And in this book, I am learning about the top 10 dangerous spiders of the world. 3. Text-to-world connections. These are connections where you connect what you are reading to real events, past to present, social issues, other people and happenings going on in the world. You learn about the world what you hear on TV, movies, magazines, and newspapers. It reminds you of something you have seen happen to someone you know or have seen in the news. Example: I saw in the news about how water pollution was affecting marine animals. And in this book, I am learning about why people or why pollution can make a marine animal sick. There are some examples of questions that can be used to facilitate connections. For text to self, what does this remind me of in my life? What is this similar to in my life? What is this different from my life? Has something like this ever happened to me? How does this relate to my life? Whatever or what were my feelings when I read this book? For text to text, what does this remind me of in another book I've read? How is this text similar to other things I've read? How is this different from other books I've read? Have I read about something like this before? Now text to world. What does this remind me of in the real world? How is this text similar to things that happen in the real world? How is this different from other things that happen in the real world? How did that part relate to the world around me? Now there are activities that we are going to do. For activity 1, we call it Read and Connect. Directions: to further enhance your craft in making connections, you are tasked to read an excerpt of the story entitled The Bully by Anne Scurf. Record in your paper the connection you made while reading. Be sure to include the paragraph number and type of connection. And you can see this on pages 4 to 7. Now, as you can see in making connections in activity 1, in text to self, when I read the part about blank, it reminded me of about blank. Next, I can connect to character blank because of blank. Next, I can consider how character felt because blank. Now, for text to text, This story reminds me of the title story, blank because blank. Next, the way this story is written reminds me of the story blank because blank. Next, this is similar to blank. Okay, for text to world, this story makes me think of blank because of blank. This story reminds me of something I heard in the news. This is like blank. That is for activity 1. Next, for activity 2, share and connections. You are going to share your thoughts and reactions about the story which you have read in this double entry journal. In this first column, write a quote or situation from the text that you can react to. Then in the second column, record your reactions which should make a connection between the text and yourself, another text, or the world. As you can see in the double entry journal, for idea from text, you can see the example there. Example, sometimes he is impressed his friends by forcing smaller boys to give him money or do his homework. The reaction or connection, it reminds me of my classmate in elementary days who shares his baon with his tropa and mock those who don't have money to buy their snacks during recess time. And that is text-to-self connection. So, you are going to answer 1 to 5 items. Next, activity 3. Assess your connections. You are going to evaluate your ability in making connections using the rubric below. So, making connections rubric. For text to self, 4 points if, while reading, I can make several detailed and deep connections to my own personal experiences or knowledge without help. 3 points if, while reading, I can make some meaningful and appropriate connections to my own personal experiences or knowledge with little help. 2 points if, while reading, I can make a few general connections to my personal experiences or knowledge with some help. And 1 point if, while reading, I can make vague and surface level connections to my own personal experiences or knowledge with a lot of help, or I struggle to make connections to personal experiences. For text to text, while reading, that is 4 points, I can make several detailed and deep connections to another text without help. 3 points while reading, I can make some meaningful and appropriate connections to another text with little help. 2 points if, while reading, I can make a few general connections to another text with some help. And 1 point if, while reading, I can make vague and surface level connections to another text with a lot of help. Or I struggle to make connections to another text. For text to world, 4 points if, while reading, I can make several detailed and deep connections to events past and present using or issues and other happenings going into the world without help. 3 points if, while reading, I can make some meaningful connections to events past and present issues or other happenings going on in the world with little help. 2 points if, while reading, I can make a few general connections to events, past and present, issues or other happenings going on in the world with some help. And 1 point if, I can make a vague and surface level while reading connection to events, past and present issues or other happenings going on in the world with a lot of help. Or, I struggle to make connections to events, past and present, issues or other happenings going on in the world. So, you are going to have a reflection. You are going to summarize the point of lesson in one sentence? And what type of connection was the easiest to make? Which type of the most or was the most challenging? How do you think making connections will help you in the future? Okay, understood? Are you done, class? Very good. Now, for deep understanding, in a half sheet of paper, you are going to answer the following questions. Write whether the connection given is a text to self, text to text, or text to world. For number 1, I read the story about a boy who loved to eat cheese for breakfast. It reminded me of the time we ran out cereal and my mom made me a cheese sandwich for breakfast. 2. I read an article about how bananas are grown in the tropics. It reminded me of how how oranges are usually grown in Los Angeles. Number 3. I read a review of my favorite book. It reminded me that not everyone has the same taste in books. Number 4. I read a nutrition label on the back of my frozen pizza. It reminded me of an article I read about how to make healthy food choices. Number 5. I read about an article about how to catch a football. It reminded me of the time I caught the football during the championship football game and captured the victory of or for my team. Number 6. I read a story about a boy who visited the magical land with witches and wizards. It reminded me of the book of Harry Potter. Number 7. I read a book about the best sports for kids. It reminded me that I had baseball practice this morning. Number 8. I read a magazine about the new airport which the city plans to build. It reminded me of how small many local airports are. Number 9. I read a book about that life or what life is like or was like before electricity. It reminded me of the time I went camping in a cabin that I had no electricity. And number 10, I read a non-fiction about I read a non-fiction book about how to get better at tennis. It reminded me of last summer when I attended a tennis camp to improve my skills. And so, I will give you 10 minutes to answer that. Did you understand, class? Okay, are you done? Okay, very good. For your assignment, you are going to create a possible dialogue between the following. For A, student to parent. B, student to friend. C, student to teacher. And the situation is, Shirley received an academic recognition from her school. How do you think a supportive parent would speak to the child? Would others such as a friend or teacher speak to the child in the same manner? And so, for your reference, read and open your books Ni, E.L. and Zipperman S. 1997, Mosaic of Thought, Teaching Comprehension in a Reader's Workshop, Portsmouth, N.H. Heinerman. Got it, class? Okay. Shall we call it a day? That's all. Thank you for listening. Thank you. God bless everyone.